Yo, welcome everybody to the very first episode of the Stoner Jesus Show presents Weed News. Tonight is Weed News for February 21st, 2022. Thank you for checking us out. Thank you for subscribing. It's a show exclusively on Patreon in little short bursts, 5 days a week. I'm going to bring you all of the weed news you need to know, along with the commentary that you cannot find anywhere else. Of course, I am Stoner Jesus, which you know how awesome I am. Again, thank you for subscribing. We're going to do 3 stories. Very simple format, very quick show. Get you in, get you out. Bam! You know what you need to know. You're entertained for a short period of time. At least that's the goal. First up, it's an op-ed piece from the USA Today. Our outdated marijuana laws put Americans in danger. It's past time for federal cannabis reforms. Now, look. I don't know if I want to do the picture-in-picture or if I want to do this. Hold on. That's a little better. Yeah. You can see me better. It's very important you get this. Get the visual of this for the show. Here's the thing. This is a theme I'm going to hit on probably more than any other theme in this show, however long it runs. I am all for marijuana legalization. I've been for a very long time. Longer than I can remember. That's how long it's been. I'm very old. And I still am. Legalization is a no-brainer to me. The fact that people go to jail for weed, have any kind of problems because of weed, is fucking nuts. We all agree on that. Most people that watch this show or listen to this show or see this somewhere, you agree with that as well. That's great. But over the last few years, especially the last several years, really, comes the creeping realization that along with being for legalization and hoping that legalization happens to the best extent it can, we also know that the government is going to fuck it up as much as possible, either intentionally or unintentionally. People in the government will water down legalization to the point where it's really garbage compared to what it could be, but it's okay compared to prohibition. And that sucks. It makes me very sad. As someone who's written for articles for 13 years and did shows and did interviews and just all kinds of stuff, anything that I could to push legalization and get legalization across as a great idea, which it is, for many, many reasons, many of which are outlined in this USA Today piece. They're about to talk about this op-ed piece from Representatives David Joyce and former Senator Cory Gardner. It's just, like I said, the sad realization that all this time I put into legalization, which I don't regret, but knowing that no matter what we do, the government's going to fuck it up, it really sucks. It does. And maybe that's a downer or whatever. But if you subscribe to the show for rosy outlooks and shit like that, this ain't the one. Travis Mason, the story begins, a former Marine working as a cannabis dispensary security guard, dreamed about becoming a police officer. The dream never came true. In 2016, Travis was shot and killed during a robbery at work. Tragically, crimes like this, like the one that took Travis's life, aren't uncommon. Why? Because the federal government can't get out of its own way. Yeah, I agree with that. Basically, what they're saying is that the Safe Banking Act, which would allow cannabis companies who are legal and operating under the legal umbrella or whatever you want to call it, they can't use credit cards, they can't use banks, things like that, which creates a lot of cash, which creates a robbery target because they have so much cash. Something I've talked about on many shows and in many articles for years. All of this is true. And it does need to be taken care of. But it's never going to be taken care of to the extent that it needs to be. The article continues a little bit later. To date, the House of Representatives has passed the Safe Banking Act 6 times, largely on a bipartisan basis. The most recent standalone version passed with 106 Republicans voting in support. Think about that for a minute. It's 2022, and not enough of these politicians are on the same page to where even legal businesses that have been voted on legally in one way or another in their states can't have access to banks or credit card unions, which makes them targets of robberies, and they still can't get enough people together to say, hey, we should do something about that. Because, politicians, they're here to help you. They're not interested in that. They don't care. People who become politicians, for the most part, do it for the wrong reasons, or they are drawn to power over others, which is never a recipe for, help. The article goes on, the op-ed goes on, talk about Other countries, including the United Kingdom, Canada, South Korea, Germany, and Israel, have modified their laws to allow for varying degrees of legality in medical research. Of course, our federal government in the U.S. does not do that, does not see marijuana still to this day as a medicinal product, at least officially. In the United States, as the article says, cannabis remains a Schedule I drug, meaning it's federally prohibited for medical purposes and more highly regulated than synthetic opioids like fentanyl, which killed more than 55,000 Americans in 2020 alone. They go on to say what should be done: federal legalization, decriminalization, how it would help Biden because Biden's approval ratings are in the tank. And it's something that obviously that Biden talked about during the campaign, and Kamala Harris talked about during the campaign. And now that they've been in power for over a year now, not a damn thing's been done. No fingers have been lifted to remedy the situation. And that's also not surprising. If you would have asked me before the election if Biden was going to do any more than Trump, I would have had to say no. Because politicians are full of shit. Whatever they say they're going to do, they do it for votes. They do it to get your vote. And there's so many people now that still don't get that. To this day, they don't understand that politicians are saying shit to get your vote. They don't give a fuck about your well-being, your health, any of that bullshit. They do not care. Next up, from BusinessInsider.com, marijuana testing for truck drivers is becoming a leading cause of the growing national trucker shortage. An expert says, Wells Fargo executive being the expert that is mentioned. While the growing lifestyle and aging workforce has led to a national shortage of truck drivers, a Wells Fargo executive believes there's another issue exacerbating the labor crunch: marijuana testing. According to Chris Harvey, Wells Fargo's head of equity strategy, drug screenings paired with the nature of the job, which often requires truckers to spend weeks on end away from home, has led many truck drivers to leave the industry. Harvey said the issue will, quote, continue to push that price even higher, end quote. We're seeing a surge in transportation costs, nevertheless consumers facing price hikes and shortages. And maybe some of the shortages have come from that, but the price hikes have come mostly from inflation, which I'm not going to get into heavily, other than to say most of the money in circulation right now has been printed over the last 2 years. And that's what's led to inflation. You see, it's corporate greed, as if corporations suddenly became greedy over just 2 years ago. They didn't worry about it for decades. And now all of a sudden they're like, hey, we can raise our prices and make more money. And that's what caused inflation? It's fucking retarded. Excuse my language, but it's fucking retarded. And obviously drug testing is a big problem, and especially marijuana testing, something I've talked about again for many, many years. The notion that you can go home and drink and beat your wife and snort fucking pills and whatever you want to do. But if you smoke a joint after your long work day, you go home and smoke a joint and you piss the next day and it's dirty for weed, you get fired. It's ridiculous. In 2020, this article states a little bit later, the trucking industry implemented a law that required all truck drivers who had failed a drug test to be listed in a federal database so that other trucking companies would avoid hiring the drivers. Oh, and there's a shortage of drivers? Oh, I can't imagine. Previously, drivers could theoretically move to a new company that would not have knowledge of the positive drug test. The law has impacted nearly 110,000 truckers, about 56% of which were reported for marijuana use, according to government data from December 2021. These 60,000 drivers who tested positive for marijuana use in the past 2 years could help plug the shortage of about 80,000 truckers that the American Trucking Association has reported. So 60,000 tested positive for marijuana, and they can't work anywhere, and there's about 80,000 truck drivers. We're about 80,000 truck drivers short. The stupidity of policies that come from the government is not a coincidence. The way the system is set up, bad policy. And then when there is bad policy, everybody freaks the fuck out and says, well, what happened? We'll just vote for other people and then make better policy. Well, how's that working for you? We've been voting for other people for centuries now, and it gets worse and worse. And it'll continue to get worse because, again, the nature of being a politician and a lawmaker is lying and power. You lie to get the power. You lie to keep the power. You fuck over whoever you want to and whoever you can because the power is what you want in the first place. You're not a politician because for the greater good or any of that bullshit. There's some exceptions to that, but they are a handful. They are a handful. And not a handful as in they're tough to handle. A handful as in you can fit them all in your hand because there's so few of them. Last but not least, this final story. I think I'm going to go with the picture-in-picture. I think I'm going to go with this. I think that's better. Kentucky state lawmakers re-spark marijuana legalization legislation. This is my state of Kentucky. Still not with medical marijuana. It's gone through the run and the journey in Frankfort year after year after year, and now they're talking about regular like recreational legalization or adult use legalization. Kentucky's gonna be one of the last states to cross that threshold. Believe me. 2 Kentucky state lawmakers are relighting the push to legalize marijuana across the state. Democratic Senators David Yates and Morgan McGarvey filed Senate Bill 186 last week, also known as the Let's Grow Bill, which stands for legalize, expunge, treat, and tax. The legislation will legalize sales of marijuana, expunge past crimes, allow medical use, and tax sales of cannabis for adults who use it recreationally. See, the fact that taxation is a baseline and a talking point for legalization is one of the many reasons it's been handled poorly. I think this bill stands to benefit everyone in Kentucky. We're going to create a new industry, McGarvey said. We're going to get to the tax revenue from it. We're going to catch up to the states that are already doing this. And I think it's a good thing. See, it's a selling point. We're going to raise taxes, which allows the black market to continue to work because they don't have to pay the taxes. They have lower prices. What we're seeing in California and many other states right now. McGarvey told Wave News that the state could pull in close to $100 million in tax revenue per year if the bill passes, which he believes would help improve roads and schools statewide. See, that's always been a mistake. Tying legalization to taxation, improving roads, and it has to be done to get the votes. It has to be done to get the support. Again, a fatal flaw in the system, which will make sure legalization is watered down garbage. Some believe the benefits of the bill beyond the cash. Jeremy Hurrell, founder and CEO of Veterans Club Incorporated, believes medical marijuana legalization would help thousands of veterans who suffer from both the physical and emotional trauma of their service. Veterans are going to do what they have to do to feel better, whether it's legal or illegal, illegal or legal, unfortunately, Hurrell said. And I know that if medical marijuana was prescribed, there would be less substance abuse, in my opinion, among the veteran population. Of course, it's up to Frankfort to pass the bill, which, as I said, is year after year after year. They've gone through this. Will it be different this year? I don't know. This just, I mean, recreational is going to be even harder push than medical, and they can't get medical done. So I don't know. I don't see how this is going to work, or if this is going to work at all. But it is what it is. And what this was Weed News. Tell your friends on $1 a month. Subscribe on Patreon. This has been Weed News for February 21st, 2022. You all are awesome. Thanks for watching. 5 days a week, we're going to be here. Only $1 a month. Go get that shit, son.